turned himself in later to Beverly Hills Police. The second time the star was vandalized. Joining us tonight, national spokesperson for the Congress on Racial Equality and conservative commentator, Niger Ennis. And Niger, great to have you with us. Harmeet, Dhillon,
always.
RNC committee woman for the state of California. Good to have you with us. And Harmeet, let's start with you. What is going on in California? The hatred, the anger is just building by the day, it seems.
It's off the charts, Lou, and it's disturbing. I mean, I laugh in a way because Maxine Waters is such a caricature of the extreme craziness of the far left. But somebody's going to get hurt. I mean, you know, taking the Lord's name in vain with respect to her calls for violence and calls for action against members of the cabinet and even rank-and-file Trump supporters is vile. And, you know, what's also alarming is that Democratic leaders are not really holding her accountable. I've heard she's been told behind the scenes to calm down, but Republicans aren't calling her out. I mean, you know, members of her own House should be calling her out and saying this type of violent rhetoric is totally unacceptable. And this is from Maxine Waters, who played a critical role back in the Rodney King riots, if you may recall, giving comfort to the attackers of Reginald Denny. You know, she's got a long history of this race baiting, and it's got to end.
Niger, the left, it seems, is just really losing its mind. They've lost sense of proportion. They are just, as a matter of fact, vile in their condemnation of Trump. And it doesn't matter what the policy or the result. They're never Trumpers, and in no way any Trump policy can satisfy them, despite every one of his policies, it seems, working splendidly for all Americans in this country.
And Lou, in particular, for the African-American community. I mean, love President Trump or don't like President Trump, when you have record low unemployment. In fact, the lowest unemployment in the African-American community in record since they've been taking these statistics. Record low unemployment for Hispanics, record low unemployment for women. It is rumored that in the next week or so, the GDP report is going to be somewhere between 4 and 5%. These are things that you can't deny, but nevertheless, the left unfortunately has lost its mind. And I tell you, if I was a Democrat consultant, Lou and Harmeet, I would be, fearful. I mean, even though it upsets me as a conservative, it upsets a lot of Donald Trump supporters. It really gives a black eye to Democrats that want to be competitive in elections to come. They look like the clown party.
Yeah, they really do.
That's right.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Harmeet.
No, I was just going to say that's right. You have the lunatic left, the Ocasio-Cortez wing that are going full Venezuela on politics, and then you have Maxine Waters going, full crazy and violent on the other side. And together, it's a very unattractive picture for voters. And
turning to last night's election victory for Brian Kemp in Georgia for the gubernatorial election there. Trump endorsed and Trump victorious. I mean, almost a 40-point win. And at the same time, Speaker Ryan coming out and saying we ought to be running on his agenda. Here is a lame duck speaker who isn't even running for a re-election saying that this bizarre manifesto that he created somehow should be what they run on rather than the Trump agenda and the success of the Republican Party over the past year. I mean, to me, it's just stunning. Niger, your thoughts?
Well, when you have a president that has approval ratings in his own party approaching 90%, numbers that we have not seen since the wake of 9/11, when George Bush was almost universally had approval certainly from the Republican Party, then you don't want to create too much daylight. And I've got some good friends down in Georgia. I had an opportunity to talk to Leo Smith, who was director of outreach for the Republican Party for many years in Georgia. And he said you had some extraordinary candidates. You had actually 3 good conservative candidates and a little bit of dirty politics was done by another candidate in the race against who had been the front runner. But there's no question that the Trump endorsement was huge. And now that Kemp has the nomination, from what I understand, he's going to unite conservatives, Republicans, and they're going to be unified 110%. And they're going to need it because Mr. George Soros, our good friend, has put in $1 million behind Miss Abrams' campaign.
Harmeet, you get the last word. Your thoughts on the Republican success in Georgia and the future. We got about 30 seconds.
Okay, sure. Well, I mean, I think Niger's correct. Kemp is off to a great start. I think his ads were terrific and funny, and they're united there. To your point, Lou, it's not just a lame duck agenda. It's a lame agenda, and Republicans need to do better. And, Ronna is right there. Ronna Romney McDaniel, my head of the RNC, is doing a great job. And we don't want any daylight between our candidates and the president.
Harmeet.